So here I am. It's Sophie here, and it's lovely to be here again and to really discuss tonight about full moons. We just had a full moon yesterday, no, not last night, 3:35 in the morning yesterday. And so I want to talk about full moons because they do impact us, and there's a scientific reason why they do. And this is because they have a tidal effect, which is a pulling effect on anything fluid. So if you imagine that we are 70 to 80% fluid, 80% fluid in the brain, and therefore we are impacted, because we're fluid, we're impacted by that pulling effect. So if you can imagine, when we're dehydrated, we get toxic. And that means that we concentrate toxicity, which is basically gunk, inside the cells. And when you then have the full moon on top of that, it impacts, doesn't it? It pulls. So it concentrates the toxicity inside the cell even more than usual. So you might already have a toxic load for whatever reason, which I can, go into a little bit in a minute. But the full moon will impact that even more, and that is why it can be so uncomfortable. And it's about 3 days usually before and 3 days after that it impacts. So I don't know how you're feeling right now. I've had a few messages from people having a few wobbles. Poor sleep is a very typical symptom around the full moon. Irritability, mood swings, food cravings because the blood sugar's dropping. So I'll explain, specifically what's happening with those. So what happens at night is there is a changeover, and it's called a cellular exchange. So basically when you look at the cell, there are 4 electrolytes that need to be in the right place at the right time. Now I'm really simplifying this for simplification. This is every single cell in the body, whether it's a skin cell, whether it's a brain cell, all of the cells have different functions, but their basic function is always the same. And what needs to happen at night is that calcium and sodium needs to move out of the cell, and potassium and magnesium go inside the cell, and that's called cellular exchange. But it can only do that if you're properly hydrated, which is why I go on and on about drinking water, because it's so important. And around the full moon, there's a pulling effect on that. So can you imagine if you're a bit dehydrated, if you're a bit stressed, if your diet isn't great, if there's a combination of factors leading up to the full moon, it can be very uncomfortable. And at night time, when you're trying to get that exchange happening, if it can't happen properly because you're dehydrated and acidic, because you're stressed, because you have various different reasons why, then you're going to get that sort of restless sleep. Your blood sugar is going to drop. You're going to wake up. You're going to find it hard either to get to sleep, or you might fall asleep and wake up and be in and out of sleep all night, or maybe even not be able to get back to sleep. And that is that irritability around the electrolytes not balancing properly inside and outside the cell. And it comes down to that very basic thing of hydration. Of course, there may be other implications and things that are impacting your hydration, but that's the basics, and that's why we can have poor sleep. The other thing that can happen is we can get quite hyperactive. So instead of getting this lovely sort of relaxed feeling at night as the sun goes down, we actually feel we feel wired. So that's a good description, wired. And again, this is because there's too much calcium and sodium inside the cell, irritating. It's so irritating for the body when it's out of balance like that. So you can actually find that you feel wired and irritable and uncomfortable, and that makes it really hard to get to sleep. The other thing that you can have is more food cravings. And what typically happens with food cravings is that on a physical level, we're craving the food to try to feel better. And often it's sugar or it's damaged fats like salty crisps, those kinds of things, because they sort of raise the blood sugar basically. And that's whether it's salt or sugar. It creates a change at that cellular level, creates that movement temporarily. Of course, the problem is that it boosts your blood sugar for a short time, and then you go deeper into your toxicity. So you've put all that salt in there, or you put all that sugar in there, and it gives you that boost, and then you go deeper into your toxicity, deeper into that cellular imbalance. But the food cravings are there because it's really uncomfortable when the full moon is pulling and having that tidal effect on your fluids. If you're already a bit dehydrated and out of balance, it's so uncomfortable that the food cravings are a desperate need to try to feel better in that moment. So please don't beat yourself up if you're shoving the chocolate in. Of course, the problem is, or the glasses of wine, the problem is that when you do that, the next day you have a doubly worse hangover, or you have a doubly worse effect from the chocolates, and maybe you have headaches and things, because the full moon is having that pulling and concentrating effect. When you then indulge in something that is tough on the body, that affects your fluids, that toxifies you, then the symptoms, the reaction is much worse. So the next day you can feel like you've got a really bad hangover. So really that's the impact of the full moon. So what you can do is put the full moon dates in your diary and actually use it as an opportunity to do a detox. I don't know why, but my middle son decided to do a water fast this week I heard it through my daughter, and it's concerning me slightly because hi, there she is. There's Isabella. She's just been in the sea.
I went sea swimming.
Yay, you went sea swimming, and sea swimming is incredible. It's so detoxifying. It's full of negative ions and super balancing for your body. So I really recommend that. I didn't get in. No, I didn't get in. I'm going to try next time. Next time I'm going to have to psych myself up because it is so incredibly healthy. So my son, who's probably the most health conscious, did go on a water fast. And I think he lasted 24 hours and started to feel really sick, apparently. I need to catch up with him and find out. I'm hearing about this through my daughter.
In
yes.
the night he woke up and
yes.
he felt really sick.
He felt really sick. So one of the dangers of suddenly doing something like a water fast is that it puts too much stress on your system. So I am all for detoxifying, especially at the time of a full moon, because just like when you indulge in the wrong foods and get yourself stressed out, it has a doubly worse effect. When you indulge in a detox, it has a doubly beneficial, a much more powerful effect. So it's a really, really good time to do a detox. So things like vegetable juicing, short grain brown rice, and that kind of thing. The problem with a water fast is what happens is when you don't eat is that your cells start chucking out the toxins really quickly, and your routes of elimination can't cope. So your routes of elimination are your bowel, your kidneys, your skin, and your lungs. Mostly bowel, I would say, that's your most major route of elimination. So what happens is you start chucking out the toxins really quickly, and your routes of elimination cannot cope. They cannot get it out quick enough. And what's key in a detox is that you get the balance between how much you're getting the toxins out of the body and how much you're getting them out of the cells. That's why I don't encourage particularly water fasts or juicing detoxes. I do recommend you put, for example, you could do vegetable juicing for the day, but then you'd want to put that short grain brown rice in to kind of soak up the toxins, support the bowel, and balance that process of shifting toxins out of the cells and getting them out of the body. You want to get it about even, so your toxins are coming out of your cells through the juicing and the water intake, and then the bowel is able to cope and take that rubbish out at equal levels. Otherwise, that's when you get the headaches, the spots, what we call the cleansing crisis, and it is really uncomfortable. And that's clearly what's happened to my son Seb. I need to have a chat with him and explain to him that had he chosen the more gentle version, which would be things like soups, vegetable juicing, some brown rice, maybe some quinoa, and just kept it very gentle, that is a lovely detox to do. If you like doing enemas, then maybe if he'd done a coffee enema or a water enema, he might have coped. But actually, I'm not keen on water fasts. I think it's too dramatic for your system, and it really shouldn't be done unless you have been regularly fasting for periods of time before that. So be careful. Message me if you're keen to have a go. Hi, Gazilla. God, I can't pronounce your name. Isn't that rubbish? I'm so sorry. Okay, so that's that about full moons. I hope that gives you a bit of an idea. If you want to write any questions in the comments to ask about that, if you've had any weird symptoms, bloating, digestive problems, it all comes down to this tidal effect, this pulling effect with the full moon, which will sometimes exacerbate the symptoms we already have and make us feel more irritable. So that's really it about the full moons. And then what I wanted to do was to talk to you a little bit about how I work and how I work different to other nutritional therapists and other health coaches out there. Now, my 3 areas of expertise are the menopause, weight loss, and food intolerance. So what I'm going to do is go through those particular areas and just describe to you my philosophy and approach around how I deal with those 3 areas. So the first one I'm going to look at is food intolerance. Food intolerance is the result of an already discombobulated system. So food intolerances are not true allergies. They occur in a body that is already out of balance, already dehydrated, and already acidic. And what happens, it's a bit like having a barrel in your stomach, and the barrel is full, and the barrel is full with maybe a family history of toxicity, maybe environmental toxicity, lifestyle imbalance, and perhaps poor diet and stress. And when the barrel gets full and tips over, then the body goes into a kind of red alert. So it produces a lot more histamine than normal. That's that very stressed situation in the body. And then you start reacting to the food you're eating. So it's not that the food itself is actually bad. I mean, we call it good and bad, but actually food is food. But there are certain foods that are more challenging than others, and that's just the way it is. So we have gluten, which is sprayed with a lot of glyphosate, which is incredibly troubling for the system. And it's also a very dehydrating grain. It's grown in a very different way to the way it was grown 100 years ago. There's a huge demand for it, so the quality of it isn't great. So much better to go for organic. Even make your own bread if you can, if you're going to have gluten. So there are food intolerances that a lot of people react to: dairy products, gluten, what I call the drugs, chocolate, coffee, tea, citrus. You know, there are some common food intolerances that we generally, a lot of us react to, and then we may get very specific food intolerances depending. But what I want to say to you is that it doesn't mean you're stuck with it for life. It means that what you need to do is to go in and rebalance your system using the various different techniques that I use, which is addressing diet, healing gut, rebalancing lifestyle, sorting out stress. And what happens is you bring the histamine level down when you hydrate fully and adjust your diet and do those various things. You bring your histamine level down and you stop reacting to the food. It doesn't mean you're never going to react to it again, but it also doesn't mean that you can never eat the food again. So don't think that once you've developed a problem with cheese, for example, that you're never going to be able to eat it. Once you rebalance your system, you will probably find that you can eat it again. So what I do is I do food intolerance testing, which obviously I can't do at the moment. And that is using a very simple device, which is completely painless with instant results. And then what I do is help devise a program for you to follow. And I usually recommend if you can do 4 to 6 weeks of avoiding the food and then trying it out again and seeing how it goes. But like I said, you're wanting to really get underneath it, because food intolerances don't cause your problems. They trigger. They're a trigger and they irritate and they aggravate, but it's important to get underneath what is going on. So that's my speciality. I've been doing that for about 30 years. And I just want you to know that you don't need to suffer, and that once you get underneath what's going on, you do not need to have long-term food allergies and food intolerances. So, and also things like pollens, hay fever. I don't know if anybody watching is getting a few sort of hay fevery symptoms. These are all resolvable. I had terrible hay fever when I first started my training in nutrition, and it completely disappeared. And the only time I ever get a sneezing attack is if I'm a bit run down. So it's completely resolvable.